Hey guys, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going over my February wrap-up. February, which I'm actually super happy about because I only read like 3 things in January. I was in a sort of semi-reading slump. Basically all of the books that I ended up reading have some sort of romance element to them because that was basically all I was really wanting to read to actually get me out of a reading slump. So we are going to be starting off with a series, which is actually the Heart Hassle series by Raven Kennedy. So it had 3 books that I started off reading and then they released a 4th novella. And I did read all 4 of those. So the first book was Signs of Cupidity. I did give this a 5 out of 5 stars. The second one was Bonds of Cupidity. I also gave that a 5 out of 5 stars. Then the third book was Crimes of Cupidity. I actually gave that one, I want to say, a 4 stars, maybe even closer to 3.5. And then the novella was called For the Love of Cupidity, and that one I did give a 3 stars. So this was a series that had a very intriguing concept for me. So basically our main character is a Cupid. In this world that she lives in, you have the opportunity to become something else after you pass away. She passed away a while ago, so we don't really learn anything about her previous life, but you have the option to become like an angel, a devil, or a Cupid from what I understand, and she obviously picked a Cupid. She went through many years, I think decades even, being a Cupid, being invisible, going and spreading love and lust and all this kind of stuff, but because she's invisible, she is also very lonely. You don't have any other Cupids around, so she starts off sort of depressed at the beginning of the book. One thing that I do really enjoy about it is because of that, she's sort of like a not so good Cupid. She's not very good at her job. She ends up being transferred to the Fae realm from the human realm. So we also get other types of creatures, I guess I want to say. They're all different Fae creatures, but there are different species of them, and I felt that was a very interesting way to go with the story. I really enjoyed the first 2 books of it, as you guys can probably tell because I gave those both 5 out of 5 stars. But both of those books have a lot of character growth and extra relationship building, and while there is action and that kind of thing, there was also slight misunderstandings that were not based on communication, so it was just really good. It wasn't anything too tropey, and I really did enjoy those ones. These were like a medium burn type of romance. That's what they're billed as, which means in the first book, even though she is a Cupid and we have some more adult type situations, none of it is going to be like sex in the book right away for our main character. She really does get to know the people and characters around her, and the relationship builds up in a really believable manner, even though it is like a paranormal romance. The biggest issue I had in the third book, the reason why I gave it like a 4 stars, maybe even a 3.5, is the fact that her relationship had already been developed. So we had a lot of physicality in the relationship going on, which is not usually my favorite part of a book. And even though we had some in book 2, that was done very well and actually was led in by the plot, and so it really fit there. For book 3, we had more of a political war type of story going on, and it felt like the book would go from like these really heavy action type scenes or suspense type scenes straight into her having sex. And I didn't see the point of quite a few of those times that it happened. I felt like the author was trying to put in more of those sexy times in there because there is a big audience for people that like smut in their books. And the thing is in the second book, I felt like everything that was in the book fit the book. But in the third book, those scenes just sort of cut me off from the overall plot that was going on. Like, I wanted to know how they were going to like survive this war, what was going on with the next battle, what they were doing to like be spy-like, because they had these elements of going and infiltrating other parts of the world, and I loved those parts. But then we would have a chapter or 2 where you get taken out of that just so we could have a sex scene. and I did not enjoy that part. Then we also had the fourth story, the novella From This World, and I only gave that a 3 stars. This was very, very similar to the third book, except for the fact that there was no overarching, interesting plot. It was very familial in setting, and it was like almost like a day in the life sort of thing going on with her. She was dealing with in-laws. She also has a daughter already. So we skipped a few years past the last book, the third book, and again, more than half of the novella felt like it was just smut, and I did not enjoy that. I loved the characters in the book, and I did like the relationship that happened, but I didn't think that novella, I guess, was for me. I do sometimes like to read epilogue type of things where you see where they're going or see that they're having kids or anything. That's great, but I'm not a big person for short stories, and the actual short story didn't really feel like it had a real purpose except for the smut aspect. That was basically what was there for it, and I did not like that one as much as the earlier books in the series. Then I also read a new book by Ripley Proserpina, who I absolutely love. I have read basically everything that she has ever written, and this was the new book that came out in February. It is the first book in the replacement series that she is writing. I don't know how many books are going to be in the series, but this is the first one, and it is called Forge and Fire. This is another book that has some of those romantic elements in it, and it is very unique. I don't think I've read anything else that is exactly like this or even has some of the details like this. So basically our main character of Tatiana in this book is a replacement. She is a changeling. So this is part of that like fairy tale type of lore where fairies come and like take a human baby and replace it with a fairy baby. The only problem with that for Tatiana is she's actually not even really a fairy baby. She was made of sticks and stones and was like breathed life into. So she does look like a human, but she's not even really a real person. So she was very, very sick in the human world. She eventually gets taken back over to the actual like Fae realm, and she feels much better, but the whole Fae realm is also sort of sickly. We as readers don't fully know what's going on. We just got snippets of going into the sickness of the world, and we definitely had a full overarching like plot for this first book, but by the end of the book we have so many more questions on what is going to be happening. But I absolutely loved the world and the characters. A lot of the characters that she meets have these elements of actual like fairy tale creatures, even though I don't think any of them are like based on real fairy tale stories. They just have like their own lore, and the author was really, really good about making sure like they're each distinctive, but it feels like they could be real fairy tale type of creatures that we would have heard about when we were younger. And so I just really, really liked that element of it. This is another one of those stories where I gave it a 4 stars mostly because I felt the relationship aspect went a little bit too quickly. I mean, they did have the whole, like, there was some sort of connection going on between the characters, and so it wasn't supposed to just be, like, insta-love. There was a slight reason for it, but for me personally, I would have liked to see it dragged out a little bit more to actually get those relationships going and a natural build. But I really did enjoy this first book, and I'm very excited to see exactly what's going to be happening next. The only physical book I actually ended up reading this month was Bloom. This is by Kevin Panetta and Savannah Goncho. This is a graphic novel book. I did mention it obviously in my haul, but this is another book that I absolutely loved. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Our main character is Ari here, and Ari really does not want to stay where he is in his life. He is currently stuck sort of living with his parents, helping them out at their bakery, and he wants to go with his friends, move into the city, and help make their band become big. And so this is like a coming of age sort of story. The plotline is really, really cute, although I do wish it was longer. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But Ari, because he wants to sort of get away, but he's sort of stuck helping his parents with the bakery, decides to put out an ad looking for somebody to help there. And our other character of Hector is the one that answers that ad. he was going to school, I don't know if I can't remember if it was actually for baking or not, but he's a really, really good baker, and he decides that he is going to be helping out in this bakery. And this is an LGBTQ type of story, so they have some romance going on. I really, really enjoyed the diversity in this story. So Ari, from what I understand, is at least, I want to say, Hispanic. Hector is obviously some sort of darker skinned character as well. I don't know if he's Hispanic or not either. It really depends on their last names. But Ari has a best friend who looks Asian. There's also one who is black, and I just really liked that it included diversity in here. But also the storyline of Ari learning what he actually wants in life was just really, really adorable. I'm not going to get into spoilers for this, but one issue I sort of have with this book that I wished was longer is the fact that there is a conflict that happens near the end of the book, and in order to get through that and still have the book end, I guess I should say, they sort of skipped seasons. So they had the like conflict thing happen, they had a semi-reconciliation type of thing happen, and then they skipped seasons to go like, I want to say closer to maybe like half a year or so after that happened. So we just get to see like a happy epilogue. I really would have liked to see the actual like reconciliation between the characters and the growth that happened. We didn't really get to see that, and that's the only thing I was missing. Otherwise, again, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this. And then the last thing that I fully ended up reading this month was Born of Embers by Harper Wilde. This is the first book in the Phoenix Rising series. I originally gave this a 3 stars out of 5, but I think I'm going to end up moving it down to like a 2, 2.5. This is one of those books that I was very intrigued by. I heard lots of good things about it from people that are in this group on Facebook that I follow, and this was one of the series that they were recommending for people that wanted a book where the main character started out abused and then slowly found their footing and their like tenacity through the books and became stronger. And that just sounded like a really good premise to me. I've read a couple books like that. That was something I really wanted. So I picked this one up, and as I read it, I quickly came to realize that the writing was more telling than showing. The author would repeat lots of things, like the character was talking, but we would get lots of repeated things here. And the thing is she was abused as a child, and this is a sort of magical story, and I believe it's, you know, quite obvious, but spoilers coming up just a second in case you don't want that. But she, within the first few pages of the book, talks about how her dad abuses her, and one day he kills her, but she resurrects. And this happens a lot. The only thing is that we as readers never really get to see this. She just tells us that it happens. And so we don't really get to see any sort of emotions from this character. I didn't really get to connect with our main character because everything was just sort of told to us like this happened previously, and then some of it was leading up to like when she was running away. Basically, she got into a college that her dad didn't know about, and she was like running away there, and that was like sort of where we started to get the actual like showing parts of it. So I didn't really get to connect with this character. The other sort of issue I had is that she is our main character, but there was a lot of point of view shifting, and anytime it would shift to a boy's point of view, the very first thing that they would notice about her, and then basically every other time they were the point of view, is that she's hot and they want to like do things with her. And I don't know how believable it is to meet somebody and the one thing that you think of every single time is basically sex. Like, I don't know, it was just, that was the overall impression I got from the guy's point of view, and it got annoying really, really quickly. She also got over her abuse almost instantly. It seems like she was wary of other characters for maybe like a day or two, and then as soon as one event happened in the book, she was like loving all the attention. There was no hesitation whatsoever. It just did not seem very believable to me. And then the reason I think I'm moving it down from a 3 to a 2 stars is that there was a cliffhanger at the end. And the thing is, I understand cliffhangers for authors writing stories, especially when they're series, but the thing is this cliffhanger happened during the climax. So like we had this whole like running away from home, going to college, meeting some people, and then there was like a climactic fight scene, and in the middle of that, that was our cliffhanger. We never got a conclusion to any sort of story arc, and so I did immediately pick up the second book because it was already out. It was like $2 as an ebook, and so I had to figure out how that ended. But it's just super disappointing to read a book that actually doesn't feel completed, and it was one of those stories where, I mean, it was not bad. I feel like she could have used a little bit more revisions on it maybe to get through more of that showing us what was happening instead of telling us. And there was a little bit of repetitiveness, but my biggest issue was the fact that it didn't feel like a complete book because the cliffhanger happened on the climax. I actually started reading the second book, Hidden in Smoke, and like the first 2 chapters, if they would have included that into the first book, that would have been a whole complete story arc, and it would have been perfectly fine. I actually think I am DNFing the second book in the series. I think I'm at like 20 or 30% in, and ever since that first like couple chapters that could have completed that first story arc happened, nothing's happened. Again, whenever we get a guy's point of view, all they want to talk about is how hot she is and how like they want to touch her, and again, it's just, that is not what I want. This is a girl that was supposed to be abused and slowly learn how to get herself out of it and become stronger, and she basically immediately threw that out the window. I don't know if it was the character or the author or something happened, and so because of that, I feel like none of what I was expecting to get from this story is actually still there anymore, and so I don't think I'm going to be continuing with it, so I'm going to add this in here as part of my wrap-up. I did not finish that book. I don't think I'm going to. So those are all the books I read in February. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Leave me a comment down below letting me know other books that you think I would like to read. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I have videos up on Mondays and Thursdays, so I'll see you then. Bye!